Hello, my name is Ilian Saint-Hilaire, and I want to do this video about a quick introduction to Intel AMT Commander. And at the same time as you learn about Commander, you'll learn a lot about Intel AMT itself. So it's probably a first great introduction video to AMT if you haven't used it before. So Intel AMT Commander is part of the Intel Developer Toolkit, and it's just one of the tools there. All you need is Microsoft.NET. If you have Windows XP, you go ahead and install it from the Microsoft Update site. If you have Windows Vista, then you just go ahead and run this tool right away. Now, normally when you open it for the first time, you don't have any of these computers pre-configured, and there are a few ways you can configure these. One is by clicking on a network folder, typing in an IP address range and hitting start. If you do that, you'll get a list of all these machines that are discovered on the network that have AMT. And the way this works is basically it just tries to connect to all the AMT ports on this IP address range and see if any of the machines responds with AMT responses. So if it does, then you'll see it right here. Another way is by clicking this Add Known Computer button, or you can right-click on the network and say Add AMT Computer. In that case, you type in the name or the IP address of the computer you want to add, the username, the password, and that's it. If you use security using TLS, that will be automatically detected. So I'm going to hit cancel here because I already have a few machines added to Commander. Once you add a machine to Commander, it's not connected right away. Once you added the machine, you just right-click and say connect, and now the Intel AMT Commander tool will go and connect to that machine, and you'll see a bunch of things that happen here. Now, it just so happens that this computer supports TLS security, so you see the padlock, and the web interface has HTTPS right here. If I connect to another machine, like the second one, I don't have HTTPS, I don't have the security enabled on this machine, so you'll see the normal URI here. And I can click on this URI if I want to, and you'll see the web page of AMT just pop up, and I can go ahead and enter in the username and password. By the way, this is something you configure in the BIOS or MEBX, the BIOS extension of the computer. So upon boot up, you need to set up the computer correctly with a password, and then you can access this web page. And so you can get things like hardware information and so on and so forth. I'll re-enter the password right here. There you go. And so memory, disk, event log. This is whenever the computer turned on, turned off, and stuff like that. So you can get some functionality from the web page. But of course, if you use Commander to attach and manage one of those machines, you get a lot more features. So let's take a look at a couple of the things we can do here. I'm just going to focus on AMT machine 1 right here. And one of the things I have is the hardware asset. Actually, let's go into this machine, hardware asset, and you have the computer, motherboard, processor, memory bank, so on and so forth. And so you see how much memory I have in my computer and so on and so forth. I can also click on hardware asset and say print or save, and this will save a HTML format or print an HTML formatted page with all the hardware asset. The other interesting thing we can do is go into networking, and I have filters, I have policies, watchdogs, and the way you can do this here is you can add or remove policies pretty easily with this tool. I won't go through a full demonstration. There'll be follow-up videos for doing all of this stuff, but basically you can say right-click, add a policy, and you just go ahead and add the policy you want. This can be used for adding filters to count or drop packets throughout the in hardware on the network card of the Intel AMT computer. If you right-click on policies, by the way, you can say Show Policy Monitor, and it will show you a dialog box with the hardware counters on the NIC for the filters you have. Now, currently, I have a Count All policy that's active, and it's just counting all the inbound and outbound traffic on the NIC right now, and it's reading those counters in hardware from the network interface. So more on this in other videos, but I want to jump through to data storage. This is the NVRAM. Basically, there's 192K of spare flash on the flash part of the motherboard, and I can allocate and and store data into this flash part. So I'm just going to go ahead and right click, say allocate a block. I'll just select a vendor, any vendor I want, select a block name, test block. I'll allocate 4 blocks of 4K, so that's going to be a total of 16K. And you're going to see here the test block being allocated. I can load and save, clear the block, and you'll see also if you click on data storage that there are 16K of that flash that has been allocated. The other feature we have is the event log. This is full event log of whatever's been going on with the computer. So you can scroll through this. You can also use these buttons to create events for those event filters, and also subscribe to alerts. And so whenever an event gets added to this log, an event packet gets sent over to Commander tool, and it will show up in the network event view for that computer. So that's a few of the basic things here. Now if you click on AMT, the head computer right here, there's a couple more tabs that you can look at. One is the networking tab. You can look at advanced settings, and these are the network interface settings for AMT. You can also turn on and off the ping response when you're in sleep state. So if the computer is sleeping, AMT will answer the pings on behalf of the computer. You can turn that feature on or off by clicking that button. Otherwise, you get just a good idea of what's going on with this computer here on the network card. Management engine. There's a bunch of little things like the computer name that's stored in the management engine, the version number, and so on and so forth. There's also this power management dialog box you can use to set the power management of the management engine. And by the way, the management engine is the little processor that AMT runs on. Now, one of the most powerful features of AMT is this remote control tab. I can click on remote take control, and it brings me to a VT100 terminal that basically it communicates to a COM port on the AMT machine. Now there's 3 basic features here that you want to take a look at. First, remote control. This is the ability to turn on and off and remotely reboot a computer. Some of these things like power up are pretty normal, but power down, this is a little bit of a violent power down. It will not allow the system to shut down correctly. So you want to avoid doing this unless you really have to, or remote reboot or reboot the setup. These are if you currently have state on that machine, you will lose state as you do some of these operations. Now there's 2 of these that are grayed out, rebooting to remote floppy, and the way you do that is by going to the disk redirect and activating the disk redirection feature. Now before you do that, you have to select the drives that you want to redirect onto the AMT computer. The drives will show up at the bottom here, and I can go ahead and activate the redirection, and you can see the status at the bottom of what's going on. Once you're done with that, you can go and select remote reboot to redirected floppy or CD-ROM. So basically the 3 main features are serial over LAN, remote control, and ID redirect. All those are in the same kind of form here. There's other features. If you happen to have Intel AMT Outpost running on the other side, that's a serial agent. Then you can type commands like help or ps, or you can say exec notepad, and now notepad will run on the remote machine. You can't see it on this screen, but if you look on the Intel AMT machine, you'll see that notepad is actually running. You can also stop a process. In this case, I'll just stop notepad remotely. So that's one way to do it. If you have Outpost running, you can use the serial agent commands, and so there's something called a remote process monitor. This will list all the processes running remotely, and so you can type, for example, winmine and run Minesweeper remotely. Now you won't see it, but of course it just popped up on the process list, and I can say stop. There you go, and stop it. So that's cool features. We also have the device manager, and this will show the remote devices on the other computer. In fact, I can turn off the gigabit card on this computer here, and I'll still be able to access Outpost and do these management agents. I have a file explorer, so I can remotely browse files. Now, again, what's interesting is not that I can browse files, but I can do this basically without the network stack in the OS of the AMT machine being operational, because this serial over LAN access bypasses the OS network stack on the AMT machine. Another feature we have is at any given time we see the current power state of the remote machine. So that's really interesting. There's just one last feature I want to show, and that's TCP redirect. And you can redirect local ports, like for example port 91 to a remote port, and then you can say, you can for example connect a VNC viewer to port 91, say OK, type in the password, and now basically what you're doing is a VNC session, but it's a VNC session over the serial over LAN port. So one of the cool thing about this is I can go into the remote machine, and I'll try to do this here. I'll go into the remote machine and I'll go into its network stack. So I'll go in the control panel, networking, right here, and I'll just scroll back here. So what I'm going to do is remotely I'm going to go and disable the remote Ethernet adapter. So now this computer, this AMT computer, no longer has an IP address. Now, why am I still able to VNC to a computer that has no IP address? Well, the reason is that I'm using the AMT network stack that's inside the ME, the management engine, and I'm using that stack to that network stack to contact it, and then I go up the communication port, the COM port, onto my agent, and you see Outpost here is running in the back, and that's basically what's allowing me to do all of this. Because normally a computer that would have all the network adapters disabled like this, you would never be able to contact remotely. So that's a little bit of the features of Commander, and you saw a little bit of the features of Outpost. I want to also show a couple of other things. In File, there's something called a batch remote control. You can click on this, and it will show all the machines that are configured in Commander, and I can select them and say connect, and you'll see that it'll connect to all of the machines that are configured in Commander, and you'll see it connect right here also. So this dialog box is really interesting because I can select all the machines and do batch redirections. For example, I can activate IDER on all the machines at once, and I'll just go ahead and start it up here. So that's, in this case, I'll start the floppy and D drive redirect on all the computers. And so you can also do operations like massive reboots of all the computers and so on and so forth. So, you know, kind of a useful thing. Well, that's it for the introduction. There are going to be a lot of follow-up videos to go in depth into many of these other topics, but I just wanted to give you an overview. Thank you. Have a great day.